And now we go to the Western Conference Finals, where this is fun, man. Like, this is a fun series. We get Ant versus Shea. One of Ant or Shea is going to be in the NBA Finals a year after Luka Doncic gets to the NBA Finals for the first time. It does feel like this is the real changing of the guard now. Like, the baton has been passed from the Durant, Curry, LeBron era, and maybe LeBron gets back because he's playing with Luka now. But like, that torch has been passed officially now. That's what this kind of guarantees. And we'll see if Jokic can get back as well, obviously, too. But we've hit the point where like the guys in their mid-20s are really peaking. And that's what makes this series so exciting and thrilling to me is, can Minnesota kind of overcome the crazy defense of Oklahoma City just through sheer shot creation from Anthony Edwards and being able to play? If you look at the regular season series, they were 2-2 against one another. In one of the wins where the Timberwolves were able to come out on top, Anthony Edwards only had 17. He had 17, 13, and 8, so he played really well, but he didn't go crazy. Like, he wasn't out of this world. They still found a way to win without him. And then the other one was a 101 to 116 win where Anthony Edwards had 23, 7, and 7. So, you know, again, he didn't go too crazy against Oklahoma City. So maybe it is a circumstance where they have to win just by getting contributions from literally everybody across the board. The other games here, just kind of to round out the picture of how these two teams played in the regular season. The Oklahoma City Thunder won 113 to 105. That was back in December. And then the other three games occurred in February over an 11-day span, where the third game was an Oklahoma City victory, 130 to 123. So, I mean, what are you looking at with this? What are you looking at with this series in general?
I think every series with the Wolves starts with, how is the other team going to defend Anthony Edwards? You know, I think if you're OKC, you can look at it and say, we have Lou Dort, we have J-Dub, we have Caruso, we have all of these point of attack defenders. Let's just try to take him out with those guys, right? But as we always talk about, do you try to challenge Anthony Edwards' decision-making in terms of running two guys at him, putting two on the ball, showing him extra bodies and seeing if he can consistently make the right decision? I think a calculation after seeing how good Julius Randle has been in these playoffs is that with Julius Randle, in terms of, okay, well, you got to feel like Julius is going to make the right decision, whether it's to score the ball or distribute the ball. Minnesota hasn't shot it great from three in the playoffs the way they did in the regular season. And then on the other side is, who gets the SGA matchup? I assume it will be Jaden McDaniels to start games. I really hope we get some Anthony Edwards. Where does Mike Conley go on that end? And then one thing I was really like, Minnesota defensively, very good, right? We know this. I think they have some real holes as off the ball defenders. Anthony Edwards gets ball watchy. Julius Randle gets ball watchy. I think even Jaden can happen. Not like all of those guys. And so I was like, man, Denver's really going to exploit that. Christian Brown might get 7 backdoor layups every game if we get a Wolves Nuggets series. Can OKC take advantage of that with J-Dub cutting off the ball, you know, with whoever's on him, with Chet cutting off the ball if Julius Randle is guarding him? So it's some of those things that I'm looking at, not just matchups, but some of the things where, okay, can Ant handle 2, or does OKC even put 2 on him? And then can Minnesota's off the ball defense be better in this series than what I felt like it's been so far?
So with Ant, I think they're probably going to try and blitz a little bit more than what the first two teams did. And Ant knows how to play in those situations. Like, he dealt with it more than any player in the NBA this year. He just, you know, it's whether or not he can effectively do it, in my opinion. The second piece of it to me, and almost like the one that I'm not sure what Oklahoma City does. Do you think they go Chet on Gobert and Hartenstein on Randall? Or do you think they go Chet on Randall, Hartenstein on Gobert? I almost think that you go Chet on Gobert because you're probably going to see more Gobert Ant ball screens, and I would rather have Chet as the ball screen defender in case he gets isolated and strung out by Ant. I think that's what I would do. Or you could like go smaller in this series. You could go like J-Dub on Randall. You could go Hartenstein on maybe go Hartenstein on McDaniels and then make Jaden beat you. And then Chet on Gobert again.
Yeah, that's interesting because so I'm trying to think if I'm Minnesota. So if I see that, if I have Hartenstein, because see, I think if I'm Minnesota and OKC is going to put 2 on Ant, I'm bringing Randall into the ball screen. I'm going to let Randall make those short roll decisions. I'm going to put Gobert in the dunker and then obviously space with Jaden and Conley. So that's how I'm looking at it from an OKC perspective of which of those guys is better playing on the ball, who's going to be better making sure Ant doesn't beat you whenever you try to attack it with 2, and then who's better rotating on the back end of it when Julius gets into the lane and is trying to make decisions. So I feel like Chet would be better out there, right? And then you leave Hartenstein in the lane. So then in that scenario, I'd rather Chet on Randall and Hart on Gobert. If I'm
I think the way I would do this is the way I kind of said it later, like the last thing I said. I would do Randall on J-Dub. I would do Chet on Gobert because you know that those are the 2 guys they're going to be sending to screens.
Sure. And then
I would rather like I can switch the
Randall Ant ball. Yeah.
Yeah, I can switch the Randall Ant ball screen with Dort and J-Dub.
Yeah.
And Dort can at least like physically match up, and stop Randall from getting too deep. Sure. He'll shoot over the top of him, but like he'll be able to stop him from getting too deep. On top of it, if you play Hartenstein against McDaniels, you're making McDaniels beat you basically. And like if you're gonna have McDaniels on the ball, or like if you're putting Jaden McDaniels into more usage, that's probably a win for you. All due respect to Jaden, who's had a really good playoff so far. Yeah, I think I would have Hartenstein there as like the help defender across the board. And then the smaller lineups are almost a little bit easier because
to get J-Dub on Randall.
In Caruso. Yeah. Then you bring Caruso for Hartenstein and you could almost at that point you're just kind of switching all of the action.
Whichever, you do it whichever one you want, right? Caruso can go guard McDaniels or whatever. And I like that. I was trying to figure out how to get J-Dub on Julius Randle because I think I like that because then if you could play so many games with Ant there, you could switch it, you could still double it, and he's not getting out of the Dort J-Dub trap and how active those hands are going to be. And then you still have, like you said, in that scenario, Sam, you have Chet and Hartenstein behind and SGA off the ball, which is what he does best. And I think that's an X factor as well. I would have like Conley knocking down catch and shoot opportunities is going to be huge for them. He's at 36% on 4 attempts in the playoffs. SGA is going to match up with him. And if SGA feels like he can roam and be disruptive and take chances because Conley's not consistently knocking down catch and shoots and making him pay, that's going to cause Minnesota a lot of issues because SGA is we've talked about it all year. He's so good in that roamer role. Conley or or whoever they have that SGA's matched up with has to make him pay if he's going to do that. They have to knock down shots.
Yeah. And, because, these games happen later in the year, these, 3 February games where the Oklahoma City Thunder and Minnesota played 3 times in an 11-day span. Like Randall didn't play in those games. So like, we don't really know how to go about or how they will look at this basically. Like the other option here is you just start Kaysen or something like that. You start Kaysen, you have him guard Conley, you have J-Dub on Randall, and then you like minute match the Nas second big minutes with Hartenstein. Like there are so many different ways to go about this is the thing for Oklahoma City. Talking about it on the other end though, is almost more interesting to me because it does come down to, I think Randall's actually been pretty good defensively in the playoffs to this point. I think it comes down to how he performs defensively, how Conley performs defensively, and how Nas performs defensively as well. More than anything, can you find places to put those guys on Caruso, onto certainly, Dort at times, given how easy he makes it for people, just with his lack of movement all the time around the court. Maybe that's it. I mean, what are you thinking when OKC has the ball?
Yeah, so I would go McDaniels on SGA. I think you have to put Conley on Dort. And my worry there if I'm Minnesota is Lou Dort attacking the offensive boards. Like that would be my worry with that matchup. And then Ant guards J-Dub if it's the bigger lineup for OKC, and then you have Julius on Chet and Gobert on Harden. I think that's where I would go. But like I said, I would want Anthony Edwards on SGA the final 6 minutes of every game. Like that's what I would tell Ant is we want you at the point of attack. Like I've always wanted this from Ant. Like I just want Ant to be this two-way monster, and we know he can be offensively and like off the ball defensively. Like maybe that's never going to grow, but this is going to be a great opportunity for him to not just go score 28 points and average how many ever assists and all that. You have a chance to go up against what is probably going to be the MVP of this league. I'm not saying he guards him the whole game, but every high leverage moment, I want to see Anthony Edwards on SGA at the point of attack. I think that would be a lot of fun. And I think that's a challenge Anthony Edwards should take. And I actually think Minnesota should go there. I love Jaden McDaniels, but like in a high leverage moment like that, I think I would go to Anthony Edwards. So that's something I will be looking for is how much does Finch, you can't do it all the time because SGA will probably get him in foul trouble and things like that, but in big moments. And then the bench play from Minnesota, right? Not as many options for Finch, but can Dante come in and just be energetic and knock down shots? Is Nas able to come in? Is Na able to knock down shots and maybe spend some minutes on SGA defending him? So I think that's where it starts is slowing down SGA, but I don't mind the matchups for Minnesota outside of, like I say, just a small little thing with Dort on the offensive boards against Conley.
Do you think that Minnesota takes a page out of Denver's book and runs a bit more zone?
Okay, so that's what I don't have. I needed to look through my notes here. Do you have access to like how much teams play zone?
So I looked at Synergy. Synergy has Minnesota having only played 6 possessions of zone in the playoffs so far, but they also only have Denver having played 195, which feels wrong to me. Like it feels like Denver played way more zone in this series alone than that. Just they sat in that 2-3 like very regularly. So I don't know if like maybe they might be like missing some possessions here and there, but my read is that if I remember correctly from like some of those games, and again, it's hard because Randall didn't play in those February games. I felt like they played a bit of zone. I don't remember how much, but I feel like in my head, I have them like playing at least a little bit of zone.
Yeah, so I'm just like scrolling back through all of my full game notes, and I got through the playoffs and I didn't have any. And I usually try to make note of that, right? Like if a team goes zone, I try to make note of it, and I didn't have any for the playoffs games that like I watched and took notes on. And man, I'm going through my regular season notes as well. I'm halfway through just scrolling to see that, and I haven't seen much here either. So I wonder how much they'll be willing to do it, right? Like I wonder, and maybe it is a thing where after seeing it in this series, if it's something that they'll go to. I also felt like OKC got better at figuring that zone out at times with Denver. I think SGA's big three that I mentioned earlier was a ball screen at the top of the key to get his three. Chet working the baseline was there. Now Gobert's length makes that a little bit more difficult for a team.
That's kind of what I was thinking as well, is like Gobert's length in the zone actually makes this like a real option, in my opinion.
Well, and Jaden and, McDaniels as well, right? With a lot of length as, also. So I just, not knowing how much they've worked on it, how much they believe in it, etc., makes me a little bit nervous that I can't find anywhere in my notes as I scroll through all of those games that it's not an integral part of what they want to do. But I think Finch could do it strategically throughout a game. Maybe they don't play as many consecutive possessions as Denver did, but after timeout, start of quarters, end of quarters, momentum situations, maybe it's something they can throw at them and use that length on the back line, especially to slow things down.
Agree. Yeah, I think that we do see Minnesota go zone, and we'll have to figure out how Oklahoma City is going to play it. You know what I mean? It is interesting to me as well that this is the series that starts Tuesday, as opposed to the East. I don't know totally what the TV, I'm sure it has something to do with like the TV rights there. I think that TNT is the East and ESPN as the West. So it could be a situation where something to do with the TV rights. Basically, they needed to start the West on a certain day, basically.
Yeah, I found that interesting as well. Like the Knicks, I think, really benefit from this schedule because, they let a game get away, had to play an extra one, but they still get 4 days off because of how this plays out, where OKC 1 day off and you're right back to it. You would like to think that, especially with how today's game went and this being a younger team, that they will be okay in regards to that. They've only played, I don't think this is updated, they've only played one more game than Minnesota. I think that's correct. Minnesota went 5-5. OKC must have went, 4-7, right? Yeah.
They've only played one more game, but they're coming off of the longer.
But they're coming off the longer stretch. I was kind of just like trying to look at like total minutes played and stuff like that and see. Yeah, it's not that crazy. It's just the fact that it's only 1 day now, where Minnesota has had what? I mean, we haven't seen Minnesota. It's going to be a week at least, probably since their last game. So I'm always interested to see how that plays out, Sam. In terms of does OKC. I'm interested to see if OKC getting over this Denver series and winning this game 7 at home and coming off that emotional high of what they did today, is there a letdown going into game 1 into this series? It's not easy to do, to like refocus yourself, and they only get 1 day to do it.
It's a really good point. It is a really good point that they have to figure out how to refocus going into this. They do have home court advantage.
Yep.
They do have the deeper team. They have a lot of different options here to be able to kind of work through different defensive answers for Anthony Edwards. I do think that they have more answers for Anthony Edwards potentially than Minnesota does for Shea. It's just whether or not Ant just decides to go supernova, which we've seen before and is like entirely plausible, right? At the end of the day, I still am going Oklahoma City here. I think I will say in 6 or 7, like something like that. I think this is going to be a tougher series. I think Minnesota is awesome. Like I have all the respect in the world for Minnesota. I do think I just trust. Look, I picked Oklahoma City. I think I picked them in the preseason. I picked them going into the playoffs. Like I'm still riding with Oklahoma City here at the end of the day.
Yeah, somebody from OKC asked me yesterday, like, hey, can you record a quick 60-second prediction on game 7 or whatever? And that was the point of what I recorded was, I mean, I put out my preseason predictions that they would have a big time regular season and, and then they went out and did it. And after watching them do it, why would I doubt them come playoffs? And then they just, it's Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. And, they were able to overcome that. They had the game 6. J-Dub was able to bounce back from some, questionable performances and have a big game in game 7. And I just feel like they're going to take confidence in that and continue. So I'm not trying to discount the Timberwolves. I think there's a chance Anthony Edwards is the best player in this series. And because of that, Minnesota should have, I'm not saying he is going in. I'm saying he could be by the end of the series. There's a chance he could have the best series of any player and dominate the series. And like you said, OKC should have a lot of answers for that. I think my X factor for Minnesota is Julius Randle. Do we continue to get this level of play from Julius? Because OKC has a lot of answers for him as well in terms of the different bigs they could put on him along with the wing like J-Dub. But I would, there you go. Go ahead.
I honestly think that this is like the smartest thing that we could say.
I think this is a great statement.
Yeah, from Callum in the YouTube comments while we go live. By the way, we go live as we record these, as you guys know. Go subscribe on YouTube. It's great. Whoever has a better series out of Julius Randle and Jalen Williams will decide the series. I think that's probably true. Like whoever figures out how to impact the game the most on both ends, Jalen has been really up and down. He was amazing today. He was terrible in game 6, right? Yep. It's been a real roller coaster for him so far. So I think people know, like, I'm a massive Jalen Williams fan. I think that he is going to be an absolute superstar. He just is very young. And we've seen Randall struggle in the playoffs. He's been amazing so far in this playoffs, but going back into the past, it has not always been sweet for Julius Randle, right? So it's two guys that have playoff inconsistencies now in their track record. And I think J-Dubs is just much shorter at this point. But man, I think that's probably right. Whoever has the better series between Julius Randle and Jalen Williams, that team will win. And go to the NBA finals.
Yeah. I like that, especially going in and, assuming there's no like outlier role player performance or just a dud from one of the two stars. So that was a long way of me getting to, I will also take the Thunder in this series. And I haven't seen anything and I don't have any reason to question making that decision since it's kind of what I've rode all year long.